The Incredible Universe Extraterrestrial Life Part 3. The Kepler Space Telescope has also detected a few thousand candidate planets, of which about 11% may be false positives. There is at least one planet on average per star. About 1 in 5 Sun-like stars have an Earth-sized planet in the habitable zone, with the nearest expected to be within 12 light-years distance from Earth. Assuming 200 billion stars in the Milky Way, that would be 11 billion potentially habitable Earth-sized planets in the Milky Way, rising to 40 billion if red dwarfs are included. The rogue planets in the Milky Way possibly number in the trillions. The nearest known exoplanet is Proxima Centauri b, located 4.2 light-years, 1.3 pc, from Earth in the southern constellation of Centaurus. As of March 2014, the least massive exoplanet known is PSRB 1257+12a, which is about twice the mass of the Moon. Almost all of the planets detected so far are within the Milky Way, but there have also been a few possible detections of extragalactic planets. The study of planetary habitability also considers a wide range of other factors in determining the suitability of a planet for hosting life. One sign that a planet probably already contains life is the presence of an atmosphere with significant amounts of oxygen, since that gas is highly reactive and generally would not last long without constant replenishment. This replenishment occurs on Earth through photosynthetic organisms. One way to analyze the atmosphere of an exoplanet is through spectrography when it transits its star, though this might only be feasible with dim stars like white dwarfs. Terrestrial analysis. The science of astrobiology considers life on Earth as well, and in the broader astronomical context. According to one of the researchers, if life arose relatively quickly on Earth, then it could be common in the universe. Drake equation. In 1961, University of California, Santa Cruz, astronomer and astrophysicist Frank Drake devised the Drake equation as a way to stimulate scientific dialogue at a meeting on the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, SETI. The Drake equation is a probabilistic argument used to estimate the number of active, communicative extraterrestrial civilizations in the Milky Way galaxy. The equation is best understood not as an equation in the strictly mathematical sense, but to summarize all the various concepts which scientists must contemplate when considering the question of life elsewhere. The Drake equation has proved controversial since several of its factors are uncertain and based on conjecture, not allowing conclusions to be made. This has led critics to label the equation a guesstimate, or even meaningless. Based on observations from the Hubble Space Telescope, there are between 125 and 250 billion galaxies in the observable universe. Even if it is assumed that only 1 out of a billion of these stars has planets supporting life, there would be some 6.25 billion life-supporting planetary systems in the observable universe. A 2013 study based on results from the Kepler spacecraft estimated that the Milky Way contains at least as many planets as it does stars, resulting in 100 to 400 billion exoplanets. The apparent contradiction between high estimates of the probability of the existence of extraterrestrial civilizations and the lack of evidence for such civilizations is known as the Fermi paradox. History and cultural impact. Cosmic pluralism. The statue of Samandara, an enlightened man in Jain mythology who is believed to be residing on another planet. Cosmic pluralism, the plurality of worlds, or simply pluralism, describes the philosophical belief in numerous worlds in addition to Earth, which might harbor extraterrestrial life. Before the development of the heliocentric theory and a recognition that the Sun is just one of many stars, the notion of pluralism was largely mythological and philosophical. The earliest recorded assertion of extraterrestrial human life is found in ancient scriptures of Jainism. There are multiple worlds mentioned in Jain scriptures that support human life. These include Bharat Kshetra, Mahavadeh Kshetra, Aravat Kshetra, Hari Kshetra, etc. Medieval Muslim writers like Fakhr al-Din al-Razi and Muhammad al-Baqir supported cosmic pluralism on the basis of the Quran. The first known mention of the term panspermia was in the writings of the 5th century BC Greek philosopher Anaxagoras. He proposed the idea that life exists everywhere. With the scientific and Copernican revolutions and later, during the Enlightenment, cosmic pluralism became a mainstream notion, supported by the likes of Giordano Bruno and Bernard Leboeuf de Fontenelle in his 1686 work Entretien sur la pluralité des mondes. Pluralism was also championed by philosophers such as John Locke and astronomers such as William Herschel. The astronomer Camille Flammarion promoted the notion of cosmic pluralism in his 1862 book La pluralité des mondes habits. None of these notions of pluralism were based on any specific observation or scientific information. Early modern period. There was a dramatic shift in thinking initiated by the invention of the telescope and the Copernican assault on geocentric cosmology. Once it became clear that Earth was merely one planet amongst countless bodies in the universe, the theory of extraterrestrial life started to become a topic in the scientific community. The best-known early modern proponent of such ideas was the Italian philosopher Giordano Bruno, who argued in the 16th century for an infinite universe in which every star is surrounded by its own planetary system. Bruno wrote that other worlds have no less virtue nor a nature different to that of our Earth and, like Earth, contain animals and inhabitants. Bruno's belief in the plurality of worlds was one of the charges leveled against him by the Venetian Holy Inquisition, which trialed and executed him. In the early 17th century, the Czech astronomer Anton Maria Scherlius of Rita mused that if Jupiter has inhabitants, they must be larger and more beautiful than the inhabitants of Earth, in proportion to the of the two spheres. In Baroque literature such as The Other World, The Societies and Governments of the Moon by Cyrano de Bergerac, extraterrestrial societies are presented as humoristic or ironic parodies of earthly society. The didactic poet Henry Moore took up the classical theme of the Greek Democritus in Democritus Platonisons, or an essay upon the infinity of worlds, 1647. In The Creation, a philosophical poem in 7 books, 1712, Sir Richard Blackmore observed, "We may pronounce each orb sustains a race of living things adapted to the place." With the new relative viewpoint that the Copernican revolution had wrought, he suggested our world Sunna becomes a Shtara elsewhere. Fontenelle's Conversations on the Plurality of Worlds, translated into English in 1686, offered similar excursions on the possibility of extraterrestrial life, expanding, rather than denying, the creative sphere of a maker. The possibility of extraterrestrials remained a widespread speculation as scientific discovery accelerated. William Herschel, the discoverer of Uranus, was one of many 18th–19th century astronomers who believed that the solar system is populated by alien life. Other scholars of the period who championed cosmic pluralism included Immanuel Kant and Benjamin Franklin. At the height of the Enlightenment, even the Sun and Moon were considered candidates for extraterrestrial inhabitants. 19th century. Artificial Martian channels, depicted by Percival Lowell. Speculation about life on Mars increased in the late 19th century, following telescopic observation of apparent Martian canals, which soon, however, turned out to be optical illusions. Despite this, in 1895, American astronomer Percival Lowell published his book Mars, followed by Mars and its Canals in 1906, proposing that the canals were the work of a long-gone civilization. The idea of life on Mars led British writer H.G. Wells to write the novel The War of the Worlds in 1897, telling of an invasion by aliens from Mars who were fleeing the planet's desiccation. Spectroscopic analysis of Mars's atmosphere began in earnest in 1894, when U.S. astronomer William Wallace Campbell showed that neither water nor oxygen was present in the Martian atmosphere. By 1909, better telescopes and the best perihelic opposition of Mars since 1877 conclusively put an end to the canal hypothesis. As a consequence of the belief in the spontaneous generation, there was little thought about the conditions of each celestial body. It was simply assumed that life would thrive anywhere. This theory was disproved by Louis Pasteur in the 19th century. Popular belief in thriving alien civilizations elsewhere in the solar system still remained strong until Mariner 4 and Mariner 9 provided close images of Mars, which debunked forever the idea of the existence of Martians and decreased the previous expectations of finding alien life in general. The end of the spontaneous generation belief forced to investigate the origin of life. Although abiogenesis is the more accepted theory, a number of authors reclaimed the term panspermia and proposed that life was brought to Earth from elsewhere. Some of those authors are Jöns Jacob Berzelius, 1834, Kelvin, 1871, Hermann von Helmholtz, 1879, and, somewhat later, by Svante Arrhenius, 1903. The science fiction genre, although not so named during the time, developed during the late 19th century. The expansion of the genre of extraterrestrials in fiction influenced the popular perception of the real-life topic, making people eager to jump to conclusions about the discovery of aliens. Science marched at a slower pace, some discoveries fueled expectations and others dashed excessive hopes. For example, with the advent of telescopes, most structures seen on the Moon or Mars were immediately attributed to Selenites or Martians, and later ones, such as more powerful telescopes, revealed that all such discoveries were natural features. A famous case is the Cydonia region of Mars, first imagined by the Viking 1 orbiter. The low-resolution photos showed a rock formation that resembled a human face, but later spacecraft took photos in higher detail that showed that there was nothing special about the site. Recent history. The Arecibo message is a digital message sent to Messier 13, and is a well-known symbol of human attempts to contact extraterrestrials. The search and study of extraterrestrial life became a science of its own, astrobiology. Also known as exobiology, this discipline is studied by the NASA, the ESA, the INF, and others. Astrobiology studies life from Earth as well, but with a cosmic perspective. For example, abiogenesis is of interest to astrobiology, not because of the origin of life on Earth, but for the chances of a similar process taking place in other celestial bodies. Many aspects of life, from its definition to its chemistry, are analyzed as either likely to be similar in all forms of life across the cosmos or only native to Earth. Astrobiology, however, remains constrained by the current lack of extraterrestrial lifeforms to study, as all life on Earth comes from the same ancestor, and it is hard to infer general characteristics from a group with a single example to analyze. The 20th century came with great technological advances, speculations about future hypothetical technologies, and an increased basic knowledge of science by the general population thanks to science divulgation through the mass media. The public interest in extraterrestrial life and the lack of discoveries by mainstream science led to the emergence of pseudosciences that provided affirmative, if questionable, answers to the existence of aliens. Ufology claims that many unidentified flying objects, UFOs, would be spaceships from alien species, and ancient astronauts' hypotheses claim that aliens would have visited Earth in antiquity and prehistoric times, but people would have failed to understand it by then. Most UFOs or UFO sightings can be readily explained as sightings of Earth-based aircraft, including top-secret aircraft, known astronomical objects or weather phenomenons, or as hoaxes. The possibility of extraterrestrial life on the Moon was ruled out in the 1960s, and during the 1970s it became clear that most of the other bodies of the solar system do not harbor highly developed life, although the question of primitive life on bodies in the solar system remains open. Many scientists are optimistic about the chances of finding alien life. In the words of SETI's Frank Drake, all we know for sure is that the sky is not littered with powerful microwave transmitters. Drake noted that it is entirely possible that advanced technology results in communication being carried out in some way other than conventional radio transmission. At the same time, the data returned by space probes, and giant strides in detection methods, have allowed science to begin delineating habitability criteria on other worlds, and to confirm that at least other planets are plentiful, though aliens remain a question mark. The WOW! Signal, detected in 1977 by a SETI project, remains a subject of speculative debate. The WOW! Signal represented as 6-5. The original printout with Eamon's handwritten exclamation is preserved by Ohio History Connection. It was pointed towards the Proxima Centauri system. The signal was used to support the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. On the other hand, other scientists are pessimistic. Jacques Monod wrote that man knows at last that he is alone in the indifferent immensity of the universe, whence which he has emerged by chance. In 2000, geologist and paleontologist Peter Ward and astrobiologist Donald Brownlee published a book entitled Rare Earth: Why Complex Life is Uncommon in the Universe. In it, they discuss the rare Earth hypothesis, in which they claim that Earth-like life is rare in the universe, whereas microbial life is common. Ward and Brownlee are open to the idea of evolution on other planets that is not based on essential Earth-like characteristics such as DNA and carbon. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.